Welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast, where trauma survivors become healthy thrivers. Each month, we'll feature a theme in the trauma recovery and empowerment field. To promote your recovery, healing, and learning how to build dreams, here's your host, Karen Robinson, transformational coach and therapist.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast. Today, our special guest is Anna Runyan. Anna is the founder and CEO of Classy Career Girl International. I don't know what that means, but I love the title. She's here to tell us all about herself and her organization. So welcome, Anna.
Hey, thanks for having me. This is fun. I'm excited.
Awesome. So tell us more. Let's start out with just simply what is Classy Girl. Let's start with that because that's fun.
Okay. So Classy Career Girl began as a little blog way back in 2010. And unknowingly, I was blogging. I was like sharing kind of what I was learning in my day job. And I was kind of stuck in my career. And so I was blogging about that. I was interviewing experts and trying to figure out how to get myself unstuck and figure out what I should do with my life, what I should be when I grew up, because I just was really stuck. So I started to blog and I started to let like this kind of creative side out. And unknowingly, it kind of turned into my full-time career, my full-time business. And back in 2014, I had my first daughter. I quit that day job and transitioned into being an entrepreneur. So I've been doing this now for 8 years. And what Classy Career Girl is basically our mission is to help women find career fulfillment. And so we help you figure out like what your ideal career path is. And then we help you launch your ideal career or business, whichever path is right for you. Because one of the things we teach is like sometimes you don't necessarily know, maybe whether entrepreneurship is right for you, or you get kind of stuck in a job because you're good at it, but you don't actually love it. So our big thing is just first making sure you know like what your ideal career or business is first, because then you're going to be more successful. You're going to be more passionate. You're going to love what you do. And then ultimately we can make a bigger impact and we can help more people as well when we're doing careers that we love, when we don't have to worry about money and like we can actually, do what we love and make a bigger impact as well. So yeah, that's the big picture. We have a lot of different, I have a podcast, obviously a website, a membership site. And so we have a lot of different ways to help and support other women with their careers.
I super love this. I love that you use the word stuck for one. I didn't love hearing that you were stuck, of course. But my audience, the trauma survivors, we generally struggle with getting stuck, and it can be a lot of different reasons. It's limited beliefs. It's hearing the critic, which is part of the limiting belief system. It could be a parental figure, a parent, and we hold on to those doubts that come up and we can get stuck, or we just don't know what our purpose and passion is. So the fact that you help women with that is wonderful. But I'm wondering too, like, do a lot of the women you work with come from toxic work environments by any chance?
Yes, well, that is something that happens. I know I did for sure. And so I think that I relate to a lot of people who are in those kind of toxic work environments too, and just kind of feeling like we have to give so much of ourselves to our work and to our jobs and to be perfect. I mean, that's how I felt too, is like I had to get there at the right time and do everything right. And I was just giving so much. And I felt like I wasn't reaching my full potential because it just didn't feel like I was ever good enough because I wasn't in the right career path there. And then it just also didn't feel like I was valued. I mean, I was burnt out and unappreciated, honestly. And a lot of my ideas weren't being heard. And I had some great ones, I was like, I wanted to make a change and I wanted to make things better. And I just felt unheard. And so, yes, that's definitely what a lot of women are facing right now, especially with what's happening with the economy, with the Great Resignation. A lot of people are just kind of having this like reawakening in this kind of time where you're reevaluating, like, is this the right path for me? Can I do something different? I think we all had this kind of reawakening with the pandemic too, of like, what do I really want to do with my life? What do I really want to do with my career? I know for me, it was like, you realize the value of life, and you realize like, you don't want to regret anything. And I think it was just for everyone all around the world, just like a kind of a time to reevaluate, what am I doing with my life? Is this what I want to do, for the next 20, 30 years? Or is it time to make a change? Like maybe I should do something more in line with what I've always dreamed of doing. And then if you are kind of undervalued or unappreciated, and you just kind of feel like you're not reaching that full potential, yeah, that's definitely something that women come to us and they start to watch our videos and listen to our podcasts and just kind of realize that there are other people out there who are doing work that they really love, who are getting paid to do work that they really love. There is other careers out there where you can, turn your passions into a business or into another career field. You could work from home. I know I have 3 daughters. And so for me, working from home was like a priority for me. Like I wanted to be there. I wanted to be around. I mean, originally I just had the first one, and it took me a very, very long time to have her. I had miscarriages and we had to deal with infertility. And so when she got here, it was like, I don't want to leave her, like I wanted to be there and be around her. So yeah, definitely there's definitely women facing toxic work environments right now.
Totally. Yeah. Well, we mentioned before the call, we both have 3 kids. I have 2 daughters and a son. Yeah. So, children are, there's so much work, and I'm so happy that you are there for your child and able to do a career that you love. And I'm part of the Great Resignation. I was with the federal government for 17 years. My role, I worked at a toxic environment for sure. And it took the pandemic, I had emergency surgery too to get my gallbladder out. But so between the pandemic and the surgery, and I'd already had the dream of having my own business. So everything came together at once. I'm like, doing my business, having my podcast.
Good job. I love it.
All the stuff that you're teaching is wonderful.
Yeah. And you're living it. So like, I love this. I love the success stories. I love like hearing, I could talk about career changes all day. I get so excited when I hear about it.
Yeah. It's because we have so many gifts. We have so many talents and skills, especially if we've been outside in the workforce. And like you said, you burnt out. You did so much all the time, give, 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 give. And even though that can be toxic and negative, you did build up your skills because of that. And so now you have all these skills, and there's just so many opportunities. Sometimes we just have to either take the time to find them or create them for ourselves. So I think your organization is part of that creation, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And a lot of times we don't realize like what our favorite skills are as well. And we're like, I was in finance and I was doing an okay job at it, but it wasn't something I like truly loved to do as well. So I knew that there was like something else out there for me that kind of fit a little bit better. Because I love teaching. I love like teaching and I love training. And so being able to like combine that into an ideal career.
I love those things too. They're just so rewarding when you teach something or train an idea and you see people's light bulbs go off. You can see it in their eyes, something that's really going to be helpful to them in moving that needle. It's beautiful. Okay. So we know about the career story. Is there anything about your childhood or early adolescence or young adulthood that propelled you to want to go in this direction other than the hard work environments?
Well, it's interesting. One of the things actually I teach is to think back to your childhood and think back to like those things that you really enjoyed doing, because sometimes that can be like a light bulb as far as like the career path that you should go into as well. And when I think back to my childhood and more so into like, middle school years, like I was always the one that my friends would come to ask for questions like, how do I improve my score on this test? Or, how do I get on the tennis team? Or how do I, there was all these like, my friends just looked to me kind of as like that resource, kind of like, person to ask. And I loved answering their questions and I loved helping them. And so, later on as I grew up too, it started to become more of like the career questions, right? It was like, Anna, help me with my resume. Sure. I'd love to. Help me with this interview. I need a new job. And so the questions kind of changed. But it was interesting when I was reevaluating what career I should go into. And I had someone pose that question to me, is like, what are those things you really enjoyed when you were younger? And I looked back and I could see myself, I mean, a start of being a career coach, right? A start of being someone who is available for Q&A. And that's what I do today too. In my membership, like every month we have Q&A and it's called Ask Anna, and I just get to answer questions
Mm-hmm.
and I love it. It's kind of like this podcast interview too. It's looking back and seeing what those things were that you were doing as well. And then the other interest I had, like when I was really young, I started to Save the Earth Club, and there was like one
Aw.
other girl that was in the club with me. And, we would tell our parents to shorten their showers and turn off lights and, just the kind of the little things. But when I look back at that too, I see like, I really wanted to serve. I wanted to impact. I wanted to do something bigger than,
To
just go to
lead.
school. Yeah. I wanted to lead something. I wanted to have that impact. And as I grew up, I'm an introvert too. And so, for me, I was kind of like turned into like kind of being shy. And I don't know if I like really did much of that impact as I grew up until later on after college, until I really figured out, what I wanted to do, with my life. But when I look back at that young girl, I was like, that's who I wanted to be. And so sometimes I think that was a great question to ask, because sometimes there's just those little, like, when we can look back and think like, what are those things that we really enjoyed? What did we create when we were younger? And maybe we didn't get pushed in that direction, like maybe, our, the people who brought us up didn't really realize those were the things that we needed to explore more and investigate. And we have to figure that out for ourselves in adulthood, right?
Mhm.
Which path to go to. So, yeah, that's a great question that your audience can ask themselves too. Like, what are those things they really enjoyed when they were younger?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. And so going back to the word stuck, because it's one of my, it's something I notice clients in general, whether they have depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress, or trauma survivors, and or all of the above, that's a central theme a lot. And a lot of times it's because of a trauma or adverse event. Do you have anything like that that you are willing to discuss today? It could be a little trauma, a big trauma. If you need to know what those are, I can, let me go ahead and just do a little teaching. Um,
Okay.
Not for you, maybe, but for the audience, in case there's somebody listening who doesn't know what the hell I'm talking about with the little T, big T. So these terms, in my opinion, are subjective. So nobody can tell you the impact trauma should be having on you. You get to decide. But a little trauma tends to be an adverse reaction, adverse event that caused a negative emotion. It could be someone rejecting you. It could be someone that you knew who passed away, but you weren't super, super close to. A big T trauma are things like, again, this is subjective, but domestic violence, a sexual assault, being part of a typhoon where your family got whisked away to the ocean. It's something usually larger. But again, the DSM, the diagnostic manual, when we give out the diagnosis of post-traumatic stress, it is a very subjective thing because everybody's different and how trauma impacts us can be very, very different. So
Mhm.
saying all that, no judgment on what your little T's, big T's are, if you have any. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, throughout one of the reasons I do what I do is throughout, making this career change too, is all really brought upon because I was having multiple miscarriages and I really wanted to be a mom. But for me, that was definitely the hardest part that I've ever had to go through. I kept having miscarriages. So even after my first daughter, I would have another miscarriage. And then after my second daughter, I would have another miscarriage. And so, yeah, I mean, it's one of those hard times that I've had to go through, in my life too, just kind of not knowing why. I mean, no one could ever tell me why that happened or what was wrong. So I think that was part of it, is like, is there something wrong with me? And for me, it would always take a year. It would always take a year for me to be able to like feel normal again and like move on. So each time, each time it was like, well, there's this year of just like yuckiness and feeling just terrible and
Grief.
just putting grief and just putting like one foot in front of the other too. And then when I had my first daughter, and then I would continue to have the miscarriages, then I had like even a visual in my mind too of what that baby looked like too, because I had one, and so it almost made it even harder because I knew I could have babies. And so I think that was a really hard time, but bringing it back to the business too. I mean, that's the only reason the business kept going too, because it was like something outside of motherhood. And like, I didn't have to talk to my husband about it. Like, I could just kind of like focus on helping others, impacting others, showing up to my calls, because I just wanted to help like one person every day, because it kind of like felt like there was some like meaning or reason or purpose. And then even in the beginning, before my first daughter was even born, I kind of was like, okay, I guess I'm not going to be a mom. Like, I just kind of like, refocused and kind of treated my clients kind of as like being a mom to them, right? Because at least I can like support them and help them. And they were younger at the time too. So I kind of was just like, I kind of turned my focus. And that's when I did have my first daughter too, is when I kind of like changed directions, and I was like, this is not working. I need to just focus on my business. And that's when my business really, really grew too in the beginning.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, it's a journey. It's a journey. So, but my 3 daughters later, I feel like it's all, now it's like you can kind of look back and I can kind of see it all. I mean, there's like the ups and the downs, and I feel like my youngest is only 7 months old too. So I feel like
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm still in like new mamahood, like, world. I feel like I need the year after the baby is born too to feel like normal again too. So
if not longer. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So, one of the pet peeves I have when I listen to other podcasts or summits, when the host says, "Oh, I love that," and they say it after every sentence. But when you were talking, I loved that share. I think women can really connect, because, our society too puts there's so much imagery with motherhood and what it means to be a mother. And so when we have miscarriages, there's this piece of like, what's wrong with me? Am I defective? Like, I can't even do this basic natural thing. My body, all this criticism that's internal is huge, even though you had no control over that. But what the part that I super loved was how you could have just suffered in silence. You could have just stayed in bed, put the sheet over your head and not do anything, kind
and
of
I did for a little while. Just
well, yeah, we all did. No, there's no judgment to that either, because I think that's a normal part of healing. I should say it this way. You could have stayed in bed with the sheets over. So, you allowed yourself some time to recoup, it sounds like. But what I really think is important is that you look to your community to see how you could give. So you took pain and suffering and tried to, whether it was subconscious or conscious, you tried to think, okay, what would help me feel a little better? And giving does that. So that's the part I love. None of this happened.
I mean, my clients definitely helped. I mean, they did. And they probably have no idea, there was some, I know what I was going through at that time, and they didn't necessarily know. I did a couple podcasts after the fact, but yeah, you never know what other people are going through, and whether they were just bawling their eyes out, right before you got on a coaching call. And it literally helped, just like being available, answering those questions, doing that thing that I loved doing when I was younger too. And it just kind of like brought me out of that, just kind of like fog time, and that just really like hard time. It was there. It was, I mean, I think that's the thing, is like, I don't want people to think I just like snapped out of it. You know, like I
Yeah.
said, it took that year after each one. And it takes time, but slowly, you know, getting that enjoyment back for sure.
Mhm. I just think it's important to even acknowledge that it was a year and it's okay.
Yeah.
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 It takes time.
Mhm. I think that's really important to say. Because again, one of the messages we often get is get over it, move on, next. And some things in life are just too big to just get over it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And I will say too, I think it was after my second one, I made a change in my work too, and I told my boss that I needed because that was happened when I was like really stressed at work too, that second one, and I asked to go part-time at work as well too. So there is that aspect too, where I knew I needed to take better care of myself too, and I knew that I had a lot of stress in my life as well. Um, so I think that brought the clarity that I needed to make a change, and I needed to do something with my work environment too, and just my overall health as well. So you know, there is the negative thoughts of like I did something wrong, but then there is the positive thoughts where okay, I am gonna try and you know get healthier too, and explore what could have caused this myself, and you know,
Mhm.
if there's other things I can do naturally as well. So all of those things. I mean, overall, it made me a better person to go through all of that.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your healing journey. Maybe a part of your journey could help somebody else with their healing journey.
Yeah, I mean, each time was so different too. You know, each time brought about a lot of things that my husband and I, first of all, needed to communicate better. I know we got counseling. I think it was after, I think it was after the second one. I know I sound like,
After the third
um,
child, everything's
I,
blurry.
it really is. It's this whole like I need to write a book on it. I do. This is inspiring me to write the book because I do want to hand my daughters this journey. You know, like they're in my mind, they're miracles, right? Like I want them to know about the journey. And the one like I do remember getting counseling. We got a lot of in the beginning because it was really tough. Like I wanted a baby and I couldn't have a baby, and there was a lot of fighting that was happening with my husband and I. And so we really needed to just kind of like learn how to communicate better about them. And the one thing that I remember the counselor started to tell us was to actually, you know, call it a baby and actually write this baby a letter that we lost. And that was kind of like a turning point for my husband and I, because he wasn't really understanding how much I thought of it as a baby, because he was like, oh, it's, you know, it's just a miscarriage. And so writing a letter and having that moment, I think
Mhm.
that was a really big part of our healing journey. And
Right.
we kind of had to like give, you know, kind of a mini ceremony for the babies we lost. And like, for me, that was just like letting go.
Mm.
And I got pregnant right at that, at that time with the
Yeah.
one that stuck. Because I needed that. And that was a year after. I mean, that it took that long. But that's what I needed is to write the letter and to have the ceremony and to actually feel that instead of just like kind of like holding it in.
And see, therapy works. And I mean, I know that was painful to write, but we have
Yes.
to, if processing our pain really helps us to actually let it go. I work with veterans, and one last night, he was sharing a trauma from his childhood, not from even being in the military. And, I was encouraging him to write that. He goes, you don't understand. I'm going to get stuck. I'm going to keep thinking about this. This is going to make me suffer more. And I asked him I told him I would respect his decision, but I wanted him to work on opening his mind to how this could be healing. And
Mm,
the way you describe that is exactly what I see happens with clients. Like once you give yourself permission to sit in that darkness, that deep pain, the suffering you have, and can write and pour out your heart, it is super therapeutic. So I'm proud of you
mhm.
for doing that. I know that was not easy.
No, no, it wasn't, but it was a huge turning point for sure.
Hmm. Yeah. And I know like our pain helps us be bigger advocates, especially for women and children, right? Um, Tell us more about how that process and the toxic work and work environment, how those two, the marriage of those two, and it's probably other factors as well, helped you helped you launch, into the career that you have now.
I think what you just said is a good point, because my experience made me so passionate about helping others. Because first of all, those in the toxic work environments, like I don't want anyone to have to deal with what I was dealing with at that time. And I want them to know that they can make that change. And so it actually inspired that mission and that passion for helping others get out of that stuck cubicle, which is really important when you're starting a business. You need to be passionate and excited because it's challenging. There's some roadblocks that sometimes you face, but I always had that challenge. And I think that's why I'm still going today, even though, there's a lot of businesses that haven't survived since 2010 when my blog first started too. And so, that has inspired what I do today. And then with the motherhood journey, oh my goodness, like I've learned so much through, my daughter, my first daughter just turned 8. My other daughter just turned 4 yesterday. But I'm learning so much through the motherhood journey too, and how hard it is to find time in your day and still to pursue being a mom. Cause I love being a mom. I mean, I love just like, yesterday we took the whole day off and I just did mom things with my daughter. And like, I love being a mom, but I also have this like purpose of my business and this mission of helping others. And so what I'm learning now is also inspiring me to help other moms too. And that wasn't the original plan when I started my business. I didn't plan to help other moms too. And so I think that's like just that gradual transition of using my experience and using what I've learned too, because I know there's so many moms out there, who have an idea, who have something that they want to pursue, but it's hard because the kids, they just
Mhm.
they take a lot of energy and time. And so what I can help people with as far as, like the thing I love teaching is like planning and productivity and time management and like, putting together a 90-day plan, creating your goals, creating your vision board. Like I love talking about all that stuff. And I think for moms, it's even more important than ever because you kind of let that vision go a little bit,
Mhm.
or,
Mhm.
for me, the baby's here. I tried so hard to have a baby. It's like, now what? So
What's
like
next?
figuring, yeah, what's next? And so I do have that, through the journey and through knowing how hard it is to, first of all, become a mom. And then after you become a mom, there's a whole other journey that starts too. And so combining that with helping women with their career too, it's just kind of like it all comes together. But I think most importantly, it's inspired more of that purpose and that mission and just kind of really getting clear on my purpose and my calling, and it continually evolves too.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and so I had two questions. One's a natural segue and transition. The other one's not. And so I'm trying to figure out what to do with that.
Uh-oh.
I'm one of those people who have to share what I'm thinking. Okay, so let me use the one that's not a great segue, and then we'll segue back in. But so one of the things I love in my healing journey and then in my work helping other women is books. And I know as a new mom, you're probably not reading a whole lot these days, but along your journey, your path, did you have a favorite book that was super inspiring to you? And would you be willing to share what that is?
Yeah, I really, there's two books that I really like. The One Thing, by Gary Keller, and Essentialism. Um, those two books, especially The One Thing. The One Thing is like the book that it's like required reading for my clients, because I love it so much. And then I will throw out too, because it does have to do with, making a career change. I talk a lot about like money and like, our journey of getting out of debt, and because that helped, us transition into work we love too, because my husband actually quit his job around the same time. And we do this business together too. And one of the big things was we had to pay off some debt. And so the Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey was also one we loved in the beginning too, because I think money and your career just kind of go hands in hand. So maybe your audience would find that valuable too.
Awesome. And the Essentialism
by Greg, I think his last name, I have it right here.
Great.
It's right here. Greg
yes.
McGowan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
I think I have.
Yeah, I think that there's a few books with that title, so I wanted just to make sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great book. Yeah.
And then the one thing is right here too. Since we're here.
Yeah, that's either on my to be read list. I don't think I've read that yet, but I have it on my list. So thank you. That will help prompt me to read it. I love asking people what they're reading. It's just
I know, I do too. I love to read.
Okay, good. Don't lose that. And the thing that would have been a better segue had I used it appropriately is telling us more about the 90, like you have an offer for our audience who's listening, around goal planning. Can you tell us a little more what that looks like?
Yeah, so we have a free 90-day digital planner, and it's a planner that I use every 90 days. I have the physical copy as well, but you all can get started with the free digital one because that's going to help you, first of all, kind of look back at the last 90 days, like what worked, what didn't. That's a really important process of planning out your goals. And then we walk you through how to create your vision for the future. So over the next 5 to 10 years, where do you want to go? Where do you want to be? We've all had a big change in our lives with the pandemic. And so it's a perfect time to just kind of reevaluate where you want to be this year. And then we walk you through creating your annual plans. I think this is perfect timing for when we're releasing this episode, but creating your annual plan for the year. So you kind of know where you want to be over this next year. And then it walks you through creating your 90-day plan. So I work in quarters and I teach my clients to create 90-day plans. We actually do a 90-day planning challenge together inside of my membership as well. Sometimes big year goals are a little overwhelming. So we break it down into 90 days and map out what's going to happen over the next 90 days. And then that free planner as well has kind of weekly plans too. So you can plan out your weeks better as well. And you can get that at www.classycareergirl.com/free plan.
Awesome. Sounds really, really helpful.
Yes,
Not
definitely.
As overwhelming.
Yeah, I have been doing this planning process for many years, and it's definitely, especially when there's a lot of things happening in your life and you're a mom, when there's things happening, it's kind of crazy. But this will help you stay on track for sure.
That was so generous of you to offer that to your audience and now my audience.
Yeah.
So our audiences. It's such a pleasure to talk with you. I'm kind of surprised on how many things that we had in common, because you're in a finance background and, I'm a social worker, but we had a lot in common. 3 kiddos, a desire in our hearts to help other women thrive and take their pain and try to find some gems in that pain to make a difference for other people, because there are lessons in pain. So that was super cool. Thank you so much.
This was great. Thank you so much.
Oh, I should ask you though, because I don't want it to be, I wish I had said something else. Is there any other advice, wisdom, or seeds of hope that you might want to give my audience today?
Oh, good last question. I mean, I think if anything, it's just 15 minutes a day is all you need. I think sometimes we feel like we have these big dreams and goals and we need to quit our day job, or we need a full-time, to focus towards it. But even today, 15 minutes a day, you can get a lot done in 15 minutes if you're doing the right things. If you're, those will all build up long term to help you make that transition into a career you love. So don't discount those 15-minute little increments. If you can have an hour a day, that's awesome. But those 15 minutes do add up.
Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening in today. Please join us next week, same day and time. Also, I would love for you to check out my website, healthrivedream.com.